What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to another Overwatch League team preview. This time around, we will be exploring the Paris Eternal. It's been a rough couple of months for this franchise. They easily had one of the toughest off seasons out of any team. They were put into an extremely tough situation because of budget issues, and that means they had to make some very hard choices. Now they're left with a team which is nowhere close to what they once were. The Paris Eternal are not a team people are very excited about. Let's find out why as we explore their offseason. So, we can't exactly do their departures the traditional way because much like the Dallas Fuel, the Eternal let a team's worth of players go. But unlike Dallas, they weren't getting rid of expendable pieces to better their team. No, not at all. They simply did not have the money to keep their current roster around. There were simply too many young stars to pay. Like all the other teams out there, Paris lost a lot of money during Season 3. Between spending big during the previous offseason and not being able to generate a profit off of homestands, these guys were left flat out broke. So they were left with no other choice but to let their free agents walk and trade away the remaining players for money. Not a single player ended up surviving. No more Element Mystic Core, no more Fielder, no more Ben Best Soon or FD God, and no more elite coaching staff. All of their winning culture is gone. Before all of these most recent events transpired, the Paris roster had one of the highest ceilings in the Overwatch League. What they pulled off in 2020 felt like a glimpse into what their bright future could be. They literally had multiple top-tier players with one of the best coaching staffs in the league. Since they're now forced to use a budget roster, that means downgrades were all but guaranteed. But for those of you saying, what about the 2020 Valiant? Look at them. It seemed like they were making downgrades, but they ended up doing even better than their 2019 campaign. While this is very true, you also have to remember that the 2019 Valiant were an average team since they finished 13th in the overall standings that year. With Paris, it's a bit different because they were top 4. Replicating a top-tier season with a brand new roster from top to bottom, that's really challenging, hence why it makes sense to believe a lot of downgrades are incoming. Alright, so that takes care of my thoughts on the hefty losses sustained by Paris, but now it's time to move past all of that, put the past behind us, and look towards the future. So who did the Paris Eternals sign this year? Well, to start, they started off on the right foot actually in my opinion with the addition of Naga and Onigod. These two will set the foundation of this team's DPS line. Both of them are some of the best Europe has to offer currently. Onigod being here might be questionable for some people though because he didn't do all that much on the fuel last year. While I understand where you're coming from, you have to remember a few things. For one, he played on high ping the whole season. He was unable to make it to Dallas, so he had to deal with a disadvantage there. Not only that, but he came in as a mid-season pickup who really didn't know his way around. A lot of pressure was put on him to fill in the shoes of Decay, and naturally, he received a lot of backlash from fans. It was an all-around tough year full of learning experiences. This year we'll have both of those problems see improvements. He'll be on the Paris team facility, plus there is an equal ping system in place so latency issues are really just going to be completely off the board. I also feel that there's a lot less pressure on him because he's not going to be trying to be someone he's not. He's no longer trying to be Decay, he's trying to be Onigod. Paris is going to feel more like his team, so naturally he might play a little bit better. I can't guarantee massive improvements, but he still could do better than what we saw on Dallas, no doubt about it. Shifting the focus onto Naga, he's someone to feel excited about if you're a Paris fan. When it comes to thinking about European contenders' talent who deserved a shot at the Overwatch League this year, Naga is one of the first that comes to mind for me. This Danish flex DPS has shown great versatility while playing for Obey Alliance most recently. He made a name for himself on Echo, making big play after big play. But that's not all this guy can do, because his hero pool includes, but is not limited to, Genji, Pharah, Junkrat, Hanzo, and even Tracer. Due to that flexibility, he'll be doing a lot of the heavy lifting for this DPS line. Besides making the plays, he's going to be the one playing the most heroes so his DPS partners can stick to their comfort picks. It's a tough task, but Naga is capable of pulling it off. How good he's going to do at the Overwatch League level is unknown, but no matter what happens, you should probably expect him to be one of the potential bright spots on this team. Next on the acquisition list would be the support duo of Neptuno and Khan. So the longtime veteran Neptuno gets yet another shot at the league. This is going to be his third team in 3 years, so this might be the final chance he gets or his career seriously might be over. His situation feels very similar to that of Kelix, I feel. It's not as severe considering Neptuno is definitely more skilled, but the pressure is certainly on here. Can he prove he still has something left in the tank? I'm not too sure. He absolutely still has what it takes on Mercy in my opinion, but can he keep up on some of the other characters? I could see him maybe being a decent Baptiste, I guess, but I do not have a ton of confidence in his Lucio or Brigitte these days. He could maybe be okay on them, but just being okay might not be enough. If Paris plan on proving their doubters wrong, he is somebody who needs to do better than that, and at this point, I really don't know if he has what it takes. Neptuno is a veteran who is never afraid to speak up, but communication can only get you so far. Sometimes mechanics play into it as well. Neptuno is someone to watch closely this year, that much is certain, but how about his new partner in crime, Khan? Well, kind of like Naga, he too comes from Obey Alliance and could be a potential bright spot on this team. He made a habit of showing good playmaking potential last year. He's been able to come up big on several occasions for his former team. The character people tend to get most excited about with this guy is Baptiste. He genuinely might be able to keep up with some of the premier flex supports in the league on this particular character. Outside of Bap though, the future feels a bit more clouded. He seems to be pretty decent on Zenyatta and Ana, but nothing extraordinary. I feel like he'll be getting outplayed more often than not on these types of characters. He could probably get away with it against some of the lower tier teams in the league, but we're talking like 3, maybe 4 teams at most. There's 11 potential opponents in North America, and I'm not a fan of those odds. Khan could be decent, but I'm not expecting anything groundbreaking. Next, the Eternal announced their tank line of Dan and Elivo. Honestly, it's good to see Elivo getting another chance, because he really wasn't that bad on the Justice last year, not at all. The circumstances were just very unfortunate, but hey, what else is new? First visa issues in Season 2, then his team does a complete culture change in Season 3. This guy seriously can't catch a break, but here he is, back in the league after all of that. Gotta love the resilience. A lot of stuff is going to have to go in his favor, but he's definitely capable. It's like the FRD situation with Vancouver. The potential is there, it's just really going to be hard to drag it out given the current state of the team around him. But of course, you have to remember, while he does seem like he could be serviceable only gets you so far, which is reason to be worried if you're a Paris fan. Another reason I could see him struggling though is because of his main tank partner. Dan wasn't even rated that highly while he played in Contenders, and compared to what he'll be going up against in North America this year, it feels like he's at a skill disadvantage. Even the lower tier teams feel like they might end up having the main tank advantage. Even guys like Shredlock and Hottie, who are supposed to be at his level, could outplay him in certain scenarios. Dan has gained experience on a whole bunch of teams on various scales ranging from North American and European Contenders to the World Cup. He's done a little bit of everything in his career so far. Along with that, it's true that he's played a little bit of everything because he's played Rhine, Winston, Orisa, Wrecking Ball. He's done it all, but the question is, will he be good enough on any of them? It's very hard to say. I feel like the thing he's the best on is Rhine, but Reinhardt tends to take a backseat a lot of the time these days, and whenever he does become meta, it never really seems to last. The rest of his hero pool could use a little bit of tweaking. Yes, he's played a bit of everything throughout his career, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be good on all of those heroes at the Overwatch League level. Dan might be the player with the most to prove on this Paris team. The fans commonly tend to think of him as one of the weakest links on this team, so he has a lot of work to do if he plans to prove us wrong. Now for the 7th and final player on the 2021 Paris Eternal roster. That, of course, is going to be Suna. I can't say I was expecting him to be back in the league. After his brief stint with Vancouver, I really thought that was the last I'd see of him, but here he is, ready to prove himself. With Suna on this team, that means Paris still have French representation, despite Soon, Nico, and Benbest not getting re-signed. So I'm sure that'll make the French fanbase very pleased. But what does Suna bring to the table skill-wise? Well, it's not easy to say. With Onigod being the better all-around hit-scan player, you'd have to assume he comes off the bench a lot of the time. Suna is known for his Tracer, so there's a good chance he comes in for, well, Tracer metas. But the thing is, both Naga and Onigod can play her as well, so if they prove to be a better overall fit in the system, Suna might find himself on the bench anyway. I guess there's also a possibility he comes in for double hit scan or double sniper metas. I know we did not see that much of him in the league last year, but he had what appeared to be a promising Hanzo, but then again, Naga can play him too. It's really hard to tell what kind of role Suna's going to play. He feels like he could be an Overwatch League level player, but a lot of what he specializes in are things his teammates can play as well. I'd hate to say it, but he might find himself on the bench quite a bit yet again this year. Hopefully he gets more chances to prove himself than on Vancouver though, because he might be useful sometimes. Now for the coaching. So Paris are rocking with only 2 coaches at least for right now. Their head coach for the upcoming season will be Get Amazed. This French coach was a part of Third Impact and most recently Drifters in North American Contenders. Both teams were just alright under supervision, I would say. His most notable achievement came when Drifters finished Season 2 of 2020 Contenders in 2nd place. He's won some individual weeks as well and has gotten through trials with no problem at all. I like that he's a former player too. I feel like former players sometimes know how to get a lot out of their players because they understand where they're coming from, so they're easier to coach in a way. Let's see what he can do with Overwatch League resources behind him. Joining Get Amazed is former London Spitfire main tank, J-Mac. Another former player joins the squad here, and I'm really excited about this particular acquisition. While his coaching career only began a few short months ago, people have been praising him non-stop. I've heard nothing but amazing things about him. Coaching really seems to be his forte. The fact that he helped Dark Mode NA finish 3rd place in the North American Gauntlet when he only joined the team like a week or two prior is insane. J-Mac seriously might be some sort of coaching prodigy. Perhaps some of these Paris players go above and beyond their potential. I can't wait to see what he's got. And there you have it. That is how the Paris Eternals offseason went. It was not a pleasant experience pretty much from top to bottom. They went from a title contender in the making to a team trying to figure out who they are. Budget issues very much screwed this franchise over, and unlike last year's Paris team where they had a lot of all-star player and coaching potential, this year's Paris team pretty much has none of it at all. It's a night and day difference. It was such a horrible offseason for the Paris Eternal. I know they didn't have much of a choice in the matter, and God bless Avala for pretty much having to do everything on her own, but downgrades are still downgrades. It doesn't really matter if it was your choice or not. The Paris Eternal are going to get a D as their offseason grade. From Sparkle to Naga, from Hanbin to Elivote, from Exy to Onigod. Do I really have to keep going? If it weren't for a couple of additions that pique my interest, plus them not really having a choice, this easily could have been a D- or an F. But guys like Naga and J-Mac give me hope that a better future could be built one day. It's a long way off, but any potential bright spots in the making are better than none. The effort to at least try to find budget players strictly from European contenders is something I can appreciate as well. No matter how you slice it though, this team is one of the worst on paper. Even some of the guys that are somewhat interesting may end up struggling. A few guys could be standouts like Shockwave did on Vancouver last year for example, but that won't necessarily translate into a bunch of wins. Their starting lineup is just something I can't take very seriously. It's filled with mediocre and most likely below average looking players. Naga, Khan, Elivo, and Onigod are the guys I would say with the most potential to be slightly above average. I'm not expecting any superstars to emerge on this roster though. Think about it. In a support or tank battle, who do they come up on top against? Maybe Vancouver? Maybe Houston? London, I guess? We're talking bottom tier territory here. They do not have the pieces needed to gain a noticeable competitive advantage. And despite me kind of liking their DPS, pretty much any rotation in the league is going to beat them. Vancouver feels like their only high chance of establishing supremacy. With all of this in mind, I predict that the Paris Eternal finish anywhere from 20th through 18th place in the overall standings. This team's ceiling is very low. Much like the Vancouver Titans, these guys have to figure out what works so they can find some sort of foundation for Season 5. It's going to be a major learning process. Their players are going to have to improve a ton to stand any sort of chance on a consistent basis. Even when they're going to be in games this year, I feel like some of the holes within their roster are going to cost them some of those potential wins. The situation kind of feels hopeless. With only 2 coaches and 7 players, this team does not have a ton of resources. I want this team to do well because I really feel bad, but hope is only going to get you so far. There are a few things I'm kind of excited about, but it's nothing that convinces me this team is better than bottom 3. Good luck, Paris fans. There might be some tough times ahead. And with that being said, that wraps up my offseason recap and team preview of the Paris Eternal. Now I'm going to turn it over to you. Are you just as worried about Paris as I am, or are you feeling a lot more optimistic? Let me know how you're feeling down in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you don't want to miss out on any of my future episodes in this series. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.